Welcome to the Infinite Interloper. My name is Drew Wager, a lifelong fan of detailed and immersive space games. If, like me, you're just starting out, but want an overview of this remarkable game, you've come to the right place. This is an introduction to No Man's Sky. In the pantheon of available space games, No Man's Sky stands out as starkly unique in both its style, implementation and scope. Conceived by Sean Murray, the founder of Hello Games, and first revealed at the VGX Awards in December 2013, and later by Sony at their Expo 2014, the game garnered huge levels of press coverage and attention long before it was actually released, with many journalists suggesting that it had stolen the show. Much was made of the potential scope of the game and the small size of the development team responsible for creating it. No Man's Sky was seen to be challenging the typical received wisdom that AAA games required a huge and unwieldy development team to produce them. The internet was rife with hype, with many expecting No Man's Sky to be the best space sim, the best multiplayer action shooter, and the best pure exploration game ever to have been produced. Certainly the gameplay trailers, demonstrating ships, atmospheric planets, seas, flora and fauna, appeared to support this assumption, and Sean Murray's own enthusiastic, and occasionally less than accurate, promotion of the game did little to restrain what became known as the hype train. As a result, there was no way the initial version of No Man's Sky could live up to the expectations that had been laid upon it. The release for PlayStation 4 and Windows in August 2016 was beset by issues from the outset. Several of the features promised to be in the game were glaring omissions, particularly concerning multiplayer support, stability and graphics quality. Journalist reviews were mixed at best, but player sentiment was poor, with the game receiving a mostly negative status early on. Reddit users compiled a list of everything that had been promised and was missing from the original release, and Sean Murray was widely pilloried on the internet, and even received death and bomb threats. The event is now widely referenced as an example of how not to market a video game. The situation was compounded to some degree by Hello Games themselves going into a communication blackout immediately after the launch, refusing to comment on the missing features or any plans to address them. Thus, negative voices prevailed and dominated the subject in the months after the launch. It wasn't until November 2016 this was changed, with the advent of the Foundation update. Hello Games simply said, "We have been quiet, but we are listening and focusing on improving the game that our team loves and feels so passionate about." Two more patches, Pathfinder and Atlas Rises, improved the experience dramatically, and a year after its launch, the game began to resemble what had been promised by the original trailer. Since then, a regular cadence of patches, with rich additions to the game, have effectively provided all of those missing features promised, and added more besides. A total of 25 patches or DLCs have been provided for the game, all free of charge to existing players in the intervening years. As such, today, in 2022, No Man's Sky is seen more as a Phoenix product, having risen to great heights from a pretty disastrous launch, and is now extremely well regarded, both in terms of the game itself and the post-launch attitude of the developer, Hello Games. The game itself breaks new ground in a number of areas. Its art style is, perhaps, the most notable first impression a gamer receives. Unlike many contemporary space games, it does not follow the gritty realism and hard science fiction approach which has been in vogue in 21st century film and TV shows, but harks back to a more fantastical era in science fiction from the 1970s and 1980s, characterised by the works of Arthur C. Clarke, Isaac Asimov and Robert Heinlein, with much more inspiration drawn from the artwork of legends such as Chris Foss and John Harris. Many dismiss this style as cartoony, but this merely demonstrates an ignorance of the wide spectrum of science fiction artwork over a longer period of time. The refreshingly original approach also provides for much more imaginative environments that can be contained in a more realistic fantasy universe. The game leans heavily on procedural generation, deterministic algorithms, and random number generation in favour of specifically handcrafted assets. As a 64-bit game, this provides for a dazzling 18 quintillion planets to explore, specifically 1.8 times 10 to the power of 19. Rather than just providing a barren and dull height map with a few textures laid on top, No Man's Sky planets feature extremely lush and varied environments including clouds, surface water, mountains, caves, and a diverse range of flora and fauna, making exploration truly worthwhile as, even after many months of play, unusual and unexpected combinations of landscapes, artifacts and creatures will appear. Given its style, and not being burdened by the needs of gritty realism, the game is free to provide a rich and engaging series of interactions. Players will encounter bizarre alien races, space stations, anomalies, black holes, and a variety of strange space creatures in their travels. Gameplay is much more focused on some survival aspects, though this can be altered by various modes, and a measure of crafting materials in order to access different technologies and other avenues of play. Whilst this can be quite complex to get to grips with, Hello Games have worked extremely hard at balancing reward and progress, managing to make the process fun and entertaining, and avoiding the lengthy grind many other games inflict on their players. Crucially, players are also able to make their mark on the galaxy. Any planet, out of the virtually infinite choice available, can be settled by the player. They can build a base, either using simple pre-prepared units or individual components, and thus claim an environment as their own, opening up to both NPCs and other players for trade and commerce. The planets themselves are built with voxel technology, allowing players to mine underground resources or modify and change the locale to suit their needs, though some caution is required, as the ground has a tendency to grow back over time. A vast variety of spaceships and groundcraft are also available, allowing the player great flexibility on how they conduct their affairs. Bases can be built anywhere, including on the ground, within the confines of vast space-going freighters, and even under the oceans. There are cars, hovercraft, submarines, and even a usable exomech suit. Exploration also includes the ability to scan and interact with both flora and fauna within the game. Minerals, plants, and animals can be analysed for their class and structure, with the results uploaded to the servers. Players are also able to name these artifacts, and even name their bases and the planets, providing yet another stake in the outcome of the No Man's Sky universe. Visually, the game is, arguably, the most picturesque space game ever created. Atmospheric effects, bioluminescent plants, spookily lit caves, nebulosity in space, and distinct star colours with a large measure of faux photographic effects such as lens flare and vignetting provide a spectacle which sometimes just needs to be watched in awe. The game is exceedingly good at rewarding the player both with interesting gaming moments on a regular schedule and with sights that are jaw-dropping in their beauty. Some of the locales in the game are an absolute masterclass in how to generate atmosphere and awe. The first time a player experiences the inside of the anomaly, or the Atlas stations, ranks as a gameplay moment that will be long treasured. Crucially, the game does not force players to engage in gameplay they are not interested in. If you desire a very relaxed exploration-focused style of gameplay, that can be achieved without any hostile interaction at all. Even the crafting and resource-gathering aspects can be avoided by use of a creative mode. This respect paid to players' time is extremely welcome, as it means that No Man's Sky rewards both long and short gameplay sessions, which contrasts strongly with other games where it's very difficult to achieve anything meaningful unless you have several hours to spare. No Man's Sky also features a vast repository of lore and story, with which the player can dip in and out of as they desire. The core quest features the discovery of the nature of the universe in which the player finds themselves. Along the way, the player will discover alien races, strange artifacts, space anomalies, and need to learn various languages and deal with some malevolent entities. The story is worthy of the fantastical science fiction background and is not yet another rehash of a space opera Cold War politic and missing person cliches. A variety of side quests are on offer as well, some providing technology options and others encouraging the player to try different activities. The player can choose to opt in or opt out at any stage, allowing them to control the pace of their play. Once again, many homages to various science fiction franchises are on offer for discerning players. Strange spacecraft infested with sinister aliens, abandoned outpost, inclement weather, and vast burrowing creatures on desert worlds all feature within the game. Hello Games has provided a rich layer of additional adventures in the form of expeditions, which effectively provide an extended mission aspect to the gameplay. Players are encouraged to undertake specific tasks, with various rewards provided at different stages. Again, this has been extremely well paced, with the tasks being challenging and difficult at times, but not tedious or subject to the frustrations of random chance. No Man's Sky certainly had a controversial beginning, but the Hello Games development team have turned that around in the intervening years and produced a science fiction exploration experience that has now no peers. By focusing on player engagement, fun, and moving quickly and seamlessly between points of interest instead of attempting to artificially lengthen player time with endless grind mechanics, Hello Games have created quite the masterpiece. Its design style is a matter of taste, but the rewards are there for players who appreciate a wider interpretation of what is an acceptable science fiction environment. Without a doubt, No Man's Sky shows the art of procedural generation, exploration gameplay, and space adventuring done right. Gra, interlopers.